Tonight, CBS News correspondent David Martin on assignment for 60 Minutes.
When he takes the oath of office next week, Barack Obama, a man with no military experience, will become commander-in-chief of a nation fighting 2 wars. So where will he turn for military advice? To the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, the most senior officer in uniform and by law the president's principal military advisor. He is Admiral Mike Mullen, and we spent 8 days traveling with him to the front lines of Iraq, Afghanistan, and Pakistan as he prepared for this historic transition to a new president he had never even met until recently.
He asked to see me, and I went out there a couple of weeks ago, and so I had about 45 or 50 minutes with the president-elect in Chicago.
Just the 2 of you?
It was the 2 of us. There was 1 note-taker there, but it basically was one-on-one.
Mullen is in the middle of a 2-year term as chairman, a position he was named to by President Bush. That makes him the only member of the new national security team who was not handpicked by Barack Obama. What'd you think of him?
I thought he was very focused. He knew what he wanted to talk about.
So the president-elect reaches out to you. How big a deal is that?
It's a huge deal as far as I'm concerned. I think any president, and as the commander-in-chief, the connection with the military is absolutely vital. And so making that connection as early as possible and as solid as possible, I think is a huge deal.
Mullen will be serving a president who once called the war in Iraq dumb and made this promise over and over.
My first day in office, I will bring the Joint Chiefs of Staff in, and I will give them a new mission, and that is to end this war.
To advise the new president on what that will take, Mullen flew to Iraq just before Christmas. We went with him as he talked with battlefield commanders and Iraqi military leaders.
See you again.
From the Green Zone in Baghdad to a forward operating base in Tikrit to an intense on-the-run briefing at an air base in western Iraq, it was a first-hand look at just how difficult a pullout will be. It's not just the 140,000 troops. It's the tons of equipment and acres of command centers built up over nearly 6 years of war. All of it to be brought home without triggering the collapse of Iraq's government. Mullen himself once said setting a timetable for withdrawal would be dangerous. 2009 is going to be a huge year, and at the beginning of that year, the new president has said he is going to call you in and tell you to end the war in Iraq.
Right.
Is that mission impossible?
No, I don't think it's mission impossible. He said very consistently that he wants to do so responsibly. Certainly a responsible withdrawal, a responsible ending is, I think, a very, very possible outcome here, given what I've seen transpire over the last couple of years and literally what I saw today walking the streets of Samarra.
2 years ago, it would have been impossible for Mullen to walk down the streets of Samarra, where the bombing of the Golden Mosque touched off sectarian fighting that almost tore the country apart. It's still dangerous enough to require a phalanx of armed guards, but there's a new mayor.
It's great to be here, and I want to congratulate you for the progress you've made.
And shops are open on a street that was once the epicenter of Iraq's civil war. The mosque, one of the holiest sites in Iraq, is being rebuilt. That strikes me as sort of the perfect symbol of where we are in Iraq.
I don't disagree with that. I think that's pretty good.
It's rebuilding, but there's a lot of work still to do.
There is.
But when we flew further north, it was a different story. Admiral Mullen was supposed to take another marketplace walk up here in Mosul, but he was told that with an entourage the size of his, the chances of getting hit were 100%. So he never left the base.
Hoorah!
But he and his wife Deborah could still roll out the chairman's holiday USO tour, bringing a little home sweet home to troops on the front lines.
Singing Sweet Home Alabama all summer long.
After 48 hours in Iraq, Mullen pressed on to that other war, the one in Afghanistan, the one that worries him most. There's the obligatory round of meetings in Kabul with President Karzai and Afghan military commanders. Then a tour of the military academy.
Good to see you. I'll see you again. I'll be back.
But he's here to see the battlefield, where too few troops are spread over too much ground. Local officials jump at the chance to ask America's top military officer for help.
I'm
so very pleased that a person of your caliber comes to Iraq to meet with us.
President-elect Obama has said years of occupation in Iraq have prevented the U.S. from doing what needs to be done in Afghanistan. And Mullen has warned publicly the U.S. is no longer winning the war against the Taliban.
Were you trying to get people's attention?
What I was really trying to do was call it exactly as I saw it.
But those kinds of words, we are not winning, that's putting it very starkly in a way that will really register with the public.
Well, I said it because I believed it, and I still believe it. And I think it represented exactly where we are.
What about the commanders in the field? What do they think about you saying we are not winning?
I think the level of violence in 2008 surprised us all. The sophistication of the tactics of the insurgency surprised us all. So I just don't think there was much daylight between us and between myself and the commanders on the ground on this.
Mullen visited Marines in outposts scattered across the barren reaches of western Afghanistan. He told them reinforcements are on the way.
We're going to add forces to Afghanistan. We're going to add those forces over the next 12 to 18 months.
So how many more troops are you going to put into Afghanistan?
Well, I think the exact number isn't known. I talked yesterday about a range between 20 and 30,000.
So we're going to go from a current 32,000 up to as many as 60,000.
We could, yeah.
Think about what he just said. The U.S. will double the number of troops here in Afghanistan during the first year of the Obama administration and keep them here for his entire first term. The war in Afghanistan is likely to define the Obama presidency as much as Iraq defined the Bush administration. Out here at a place called Bakwa, where 80 Marines have scratched out a foothold deep in Taliban territory, Mullen is about as far away from the Pentagon as you can get.
Are you experiencing that?
I'll be honest with you, I don't think we're experiencing that.
This is his chance to break through the chain of command and talk to the grunts.
Okay, stand at ease, please.
He wants the troops to level with him.
You see it in a way that I can't, so I need help from you on seeing what's really going on. My life is full of information being provided to me that, life is grand, as if I have forgotten that problems are tough.
They tell him about an enemy which has a stranglehold on local commerce and can hijack supply convoys almost at will. They also want the lowdown on the new president.
I was wondering how you think the change in presidency is going to affect the war on terror in Afghanistan.
And we'll find out on the 20th of January, very specifically. But I know that certainly is an area that he's going to focus on. So I think his arrival, his taking charge will, in fact, see us focus here more.
By talking to the troops, Mullen is trying to get out of the Pentagon bubble and into the real world. He's driven by a piece of advice in one of the letters he received when he was first promoted to admiral.
The line that I remember the most from all those letters was, "Congratulations, just remember one thing. From now on, you will always eat well and you'll never hear the truth again." And that stuck with me.
Mullen spends 30% of his time on the road, and there is no country he has visited more often than Pakistan, the last stop on his battlefield tour.
How many times have you been to Pakistan now?
This is I think it's my 7th trip to Pakistan since February, 8th meeting with General Kiani. One time we met on one of our aircraft carriers off the coast.
Does any other country compare with that?
Clearly, Pakistan is equal, if not more important than any other country right now because of the challenges that we have.
Specifically, the terrorist safe havens along Pakistan's border with Afghanistan, which the new president has said he will not tolerate. Fighters trained in Pakistan are crossing into Afghanistan and killing American soldiers.
The sophistication of the attacks that are coming from the safe haven into Afghanistan have gone up dramatically. Small unit tactics, company level, infantry company level, light tactics.
Are all those troops you're planning on putting into Afghanistan going to make any difference if these safe havens continue to exist?
The safe haven's got to be shut down to a level where it doesn't have the effect that it's having now. And in the long run, if that is not done, then additional troops are not going to have that big of an impact.
Michael Glenn Mullen grew up in Los Angeles, the son of Hollywood press agents for stars like Anne Margaret and Jimmy Durante. But for the last 43 years, he's lived a life of military discipline, which now includes getting up at 4 a.m. to lift weights.
1, 2, easy, 3.
So we got to know, what's your personal best on the bench press?
Personal best is 245.
245?
Yeah.
Well, I guess we can call you a strong chairman then.
He is a Navy admiral who has spent most of his career at sea, about to advise a new president how to get out of the ground war in Iraq and deeper into the ground war in Afghanistan. But back in that Pentagon bubble, he has advisors of his own.
So where are we going now?
The tank, actually.
The tank. What happens in the tank?
Well, we have our probably most important discussions there.
Are these secret meetings?
Typically they are. Yeah.
You gonna let me come in?
Classified item for a short period of time.
A short period of time. The tank looks like any other conference room, but it is where the Joint Chiefs of Staff, the heads of the Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, and Coast Guard, meet with the chairman.
So this is basically the crew that
This is the crew.
the new president's going to call in and say, end the war in Iraq.
Well, we'll see what he says, but this is the crew he's going to call in.
Was there apprehension about this particular president-elect within the military?
I haven't sensed that. And what's really important about us in the military is that we stay neutral, that we remain apolitical. We work for whoever the president is, and all of us in the military will do that faithfully to support President Bush until the 20th of January, and we'll do the same thing for President-elect Obama once he gets into the position.
The two may not always see eye to eye, especially when it comes to setting a timetable for withdrawing from Iraq. But there's no doubt in Mullen's mind who has the final say.
When President-elect Obama gets in and he says, here's the decision, the United States military, led by me, is going to march off and execute that decision.
So if the commander-in-chief says do it, you do it.
Absolutely.